Good afternoon and welcome back to the virtual VETS'20. Today is part 9 of our 16-part webinar series hosted by the National Veteran Small Business Coalition. I'm Earl Morgan, NVSBC Program Director, and to our new attendees, thank you for joining us today. Again, we'd like to thank our 8 sponsors who made this webinar series possible. The runtime for this webinar is 1 hour and it's being recorded. During the webinar, if you have any questions, please type in the questions in the text box on the screen. We will try to get to all of them on this webinar, and if we, by chance, miss your question or don't have time to answer it, we'll get the answer and post it on the virtual VETS'20 replay webpage. Now introducing the Executive Director for the National Veteran Small Business Coalition, Mr. Scott Jensen.
Hey, thanks, Earl. I appreciate it. Good afternoon to many of you, and good morning to others of you as we reach across the country here in the middle of the day. It's a great pleasure to be back with you and to be here with all of our members and others who are participating. Again, as Earl said, thank you so much for joining us and being a part of this. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Dwight Deneal, who's the Director of the DLA Office of Small Business Programs. As most of you know, the Defense Logistics Agency is the Department of Defense's Logistics Combat Support Agency, providing worldwide logistics support in both peacetime and wartime to the military services, as well as several civilian agencies and foreign countries. Prior to joining DLA, Dwight served as a Director of Small Business and Industry Liaison Programs for the Coast Guard, where he was awarded the 2018 U.S. DHS Chief Procurement Officer Excellence in Industry Engagement Award and the 2018 Federal Small Business Champion by Homeland Security Today, a media outlet. He's also served as a team lead small business specialist at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, reporting to the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. Dwight began his career as a contract specialist in 2008 with DoD at the NAVSEA Systems Command, and he's also served as a contract specialist at the U.S. Department of Education. He serves as a government representative for the AFCEA International Small Business Committee, an active thought leader in the federal acquisition space, and a staunch advocate for the small business community. We are truly blessed to have him as our guest today. Dwight, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. It's great to have you here, and we've been very much looking forward to speaking with you today. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, and the floor is yours, sir.
All right, Scott, thanks so much, and Earl, thanks for coordinating this. It's good to be a part of this. Veteran-owned small businesses and service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses are near and dear to not only my heart as a patriot of this country, but just to the small business community in general. So it's good to support this. So with that, Earl, we'll kick it off here with the first slide. Next. So as Scott mentioned, I'm the Director of the Office of Small Business Programs for the Defense Logistics Agency. And what we're trying to do here is align our small business program across our agency and sync it with the National Defense Strategy in coordination with the DLA strategic plan, and where we want to focus our attention to ensure that we're aligning with these two documents is readiness, resiliency, relationships, and refinement. And so when we look at readiness from our office standpoint, it is our job to not only stimulate, but also have a pulse on the capabilities that small businesses have to support the warfighter and the whole of government. And so we need to have a pulse on it and maintain readiness to ensure that we can reach out to those companies and onboard them throughout our supply chains. Resiliency. One of the key focus areas right now from the Department of Defense, especially as it relates to our supply chain, is supply chain security. And I'm sure folks are familiar with the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Program that's going to be launching here shortly. And we want to ensure that those suppliers who want to be a part of the DLA supply chain understand how they need to be resilient and tighten their cyber posture in support of our contract actions. Relationships. This goes without saying. This is essentially what we're doing right now. We want to be strategic and engage in the right audiences and with the right spaces to ensure that we're reaching out to the most broad, capable companies that we can throughout all socioeconomic categories. And then refinement. This is more of an internal focus office focus area here, where we're looking at our program to really become what I consider the best in government Office of Small Business program. So we're looking at processes, procedures, policies across the board so that we can refine our office operations, make it more efficient, but ultimately support the mission of DLA, which is to support the warfighter and whole of government through end-to-end supply chain management. Next slide. So who is DLA? Again, as Scott mentioned, DLA is the nation's combat logistics support agency. We essentially manage end-to-end a global supply chain in support of the warfighter and whole of government partners. And so really and truly, the sun really never sets on DLA's operation. Where our warfighters are across the globe, DLA is right there supporting them, providing the essential consumable wares or needs to ensure that they are combat ready to perform and meet mission at the call of duty. Additionally, we do this through what we have what we call six major subordinate commands. That is Troop Support, Land and Maritime, Aviation, Energy, Distribution, and Disposition Services. And we'll go into more detail around those six supply chains and what they buy so that you can become familiar with them and aware. But that's DLA in a nutshell at the 30-foot thousand view. Next slide. So how are we structured from our acquisition portfolio standpoint? In FY19, we had roughly $43.8 billion in contract obligations. And when you break that down, what does that look like? It runs the gamut across our supply chains, as you can see in this pie chart here. Aviation, a little bit of the leader in an FY19 spend, second by our DLA Energy, and then you see the other supply chains mixed in there as well. Next slide. Now, in support of that acquisition portfolio, in FY19, DLA, out of that $43 billion that we obligated, DLA roughly awarded 40% of that towards small businesses, and that's a phenomenal feat in the tune of about $15.7 billion. That's benchmarked against a goal of about 30% that was given to us by the Office of Secretary of Defense, Office of Small Business Programs, and we exceeded that goal and kind of blew it out of the water, where we almost reached 40% of that. So we are huge proponents of supporting small businesses, a huge proponent of engaging service-disabled veteran-owned businesses, and just a huge proponent of just small business in general, as our supplier base, roughly almost 75% of them out of the 12,000 current vendors that we have providing solutions and or products to DLA to support the warfighter, 75% of them are classified as a small business. So it goes to say, without the small business community, DLA. See, hey, Earl, did I lose you? There we go. And so that 38 billion 38%, roughly 38 to 40% of our obligations in FY19. This slide shows you what that split looks like from a spend standpoint. And so our largest supply chain that supports the small business community is our construction and equipment supply chain, which is located out of our Troop Support, DLA Troop Support Major Subordinate Command. Next slide. So now we're going to get into a high-level detail of each DLA supply chain. And at the bottom of each slide here, you have the Field Associate Small Business Director who is in charge of the small business programs to support this particular major subordinate command for DLA. So we're going to start with DLA Aviation. DLA Aviation is just that. They provide global supply solutions for the aviation fleet. And so if you are in the aviation sustainment business and you're providing whether it be bearings, aviation lighting, cables for various fighter jets and or helicopters, this is where you want to target here. And so you want to reach out to DLA Aviation, inquire about some of their requirements, and then see if you can get engaged within our portfolio from the DLA Aviation standpoint. Next slide. DLA Contracting Services. So this is not technically a major subordinate command of DLA. However, they are a contracting buying activity, and so we do include them. And so if you are a service support contractor in the knowledge-based professional service business or the IT line of business, this is the organization you want to target in terms of marketing your company's capabilities towards DLA. And so again, at the end of this slide, at the bottom of this slide, you have the contact information for the Associate Small Business Director here. I want to note that this is also the organization that does the buying for our Small Business Innovation Research Program through broad agency announcements. And so we have a robust R&D program out of DLA and a robust Small Business Innovation Research Program. And so if you're interested in those opportunities as well, you want to reach out to Rosita here for DLA DCSO. Next slide. DLA Disposition Services. So DLA Disposition Services provides world disposal management solutions. So if you are in the line of work of hazardous waste disposal, sales of excess, transportation, you really want to target DLA Disposition Services. And so right now that we do have a vacancy in that arena from a staffing standpoint. However, we have a strong, robust small business program for DLA Disposition Services. Year to date right now, they're awarding roughly 63% of their contracting obligations towards small businesses. And so if you are in this arena and you have capabilities that potentially fit the bullet points on this slide, reach out to that email point of contact there, and someone from DLA Disposition Services will respond accordingly. Next slide. DLA Distribution. So DLA Distribution provides a full range of what it is, distribution services and information. So we were in this particular supply chain, receive, store, and issue goods globally. So we have warehouses that we operate, that we store, and then ship things out of. And so if you are in that arena, or are you either in the data processing arena that supports that logistics capability, we encourage you to reach out to DLA Distribution. Andrew, who's the Associate Small Business Director, can field inquiries for DLA Distribution and potentially get you in front of some of the right requirements to showcase your capabilities in that area. Next slide. DLA Energy. DLA Energy provides comprehensive energy supply chain capabilities, not only to the warfighter, but to the whole of government. DLA Energy is the executive agent for all of government for bulk petroleum. And so the bulk of their dollars, no pun intended, are really reside in providing bulk petroleum in response to wherever the need is. So you think about what's going on right now. It's hurricane season. You got assets getting moved and placed down near the Gulf or on the Atlantic coast, and those assets have to run off of gas. And so we do what we need to do to ensure that while those who are on the front lines don't have to worry about the consumables they need to ensure that the public is safe. And so DLA Energy is a robust organization providing, again, a bulk of petroleum needs not only to the warfighter, but the whole of government. And if you're in that space, we encourage you to reach out to Greg, who's the Associate Small Business Director for DLA Energy, and he can facilitate more information regarding the requirements in that organization. Next slide. DLA Land and Maritime. DLA Land and Maritime is our global land and maritime supply chain organization. So that they are really the organization that supports the warfighter from both a land asset weapon system and also a maritime asset weapon system. And so if you are in this arena, whether it's providing small arm parts, vehicle maintenance, fluid handling, motors, gaskets for our military assets and weapon systems, we encourage you to reach out to Anita, who's the Associate Small Business Director for DLA Land and Maritime, and her office and her team can connect you with where the requirements are for the capabilities that you best fit. Next slide. DLA Troop Support. So DLA Troop Support is a unique a major subordinate command for DLA. They are not only providing the consumables needed to support the warfighter, everything from clothing and text, clothing, the uniforms, subsistence, which is essentially the food services, but also pharmaceutical and medical equipment. And I'll highlight this organization for DLA is really one of the leading organizations right now, knee deep in helping the whole of government response to COVID-19. Because of our world-class supply chain as it relates to not only construction and equipment, but also medical supplies, DLA has been pulled into helping the whole of government response to COVID-19 and working with our federal partners out of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and out of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, with ensuring that those frontline workers and those that are really, helping us respond to COVID-19 have the necessary equipment they need to ensure that we get over this invisible enemy here. And so they are very busy, but a robust organization. And if you have capabilities, whether it's in the food service business or you're a part of the medical supply arena and the medical supply industrial base, we encourage you to reach out to Mike. Mike is the Associate Small Business Director for DLA Troop Support, and him and his team can facilitate helping you understand how to go about doing business and finding requirements in that arena. Next slide. So you can't mention the mission of DLA right now without highlighting our support, as I previously stated, for COVID-19. And so right now, year to date, we are responding and helping respond to the COVID-19 support, as I mentioned, through DLA Troop Support, and providing an array of products and personal protective equipment to our whole of government partners. And so, really a remarkable feat right now is, we've awarded roughly about 1.3 billion in COVID-19 support contract actions. And out of that 1.3 billion, 76% of that amount has been awarded to small businesses, and that just goes to show, from my lens, how nimble and resilient the small business community can be in helping this nation respond to something that most of us have not seen in our lifetime. And so, again, I started this presentation with it would be hard for DLA to meet and execute mission without its small business suppliers. And so I want to say thank you to all those companies who are helping us respond to COVID-19 and support not only our warfighter, but also our whole of government partners. Next slide. So I'll wrap this up here and kind of lay out some strategic lens around, where we're trying to go from a DLA, Office of Small Business Programs, at the tactical level standpoint. And so it goes to, without saying that this is a new operational environment for a lot of small business offices across the federal sector. The way we engage and interact with industry is more than likely going to change moving forward. And it's going to more than likely be more in a virtual format like we're doing today. And so one of the things we're looking at is really having strategic focus, interaction, and outreach. And so what we'll be doing, launching in October, which is the start of fiscal year 2021, we're revamping our monthly outreach program that we lead out of my office. And so what we're doing is not only having a DLA doing business one-on-one session to any and all suppliers that want to participate, but we're also doing virtual matchmaking. And so we're going to have representatives from all of the DLA Office of Small Business Program supply chains available for matchmaking appointment slots on a monthly basis. And you as a company will have the opportunity to register online to sign up to have that one-on-one dedicated conversation with one of the supply chain representatives and showcase your capabilities and figure out where can it fit for potential business opportunities. And we want to be able to have that. We still need to have that interaction, even though we potentially might not be able to physically meet in a space and setting for some time. We still need to have that engagement and that pulse of readiness to the capabilities to support the warfighter whole of government. And so we're going to do more strategic focus, interaction, and outreach from a data-driven standpoint. So one of the things we're looking at is everyone knows the federal government has a lot of data, and we're learning how to harness that data to make better informed business decisions. And so we're looking at the data behind our small business programs, the NAICS codes that we're spinning up under, the product service codes we're spinning up under, to say, hey, these are the industries we need to be targeting to find new suppliers and ensure that the current suppliers we have maintain and viability, sustainability, so that we have a robust industrial base to support our requirements moving forward. And so that way we're able to make both intelligent decisions from a market research perspective. And once you have that intelligence from a market research perspective, we want to move into true small business procurement advocacy, where we're advocating based upon data that the requirements that we have can or can't be set aside for small business competition. And so we want to work in tandem with our contracting officers to ensure that as we move forward and execute mission from an acquisition standpoint, that we're cognizant of where the small business suppliers are and how they can potentially fit into this requirement from a solicitation standpoint. And once we get there, let's look at the small business innovation for weapon system sustainment. As I mentioned, we have a robust small business innovation research program, and I encourage folks who are really on the sustainment supply side of supporting the weapon systems to look at our small business innovation research program. We have some cutting edge things that we're trying to tackle and get after, additive manufacturing being one of them, to figure out how do we maintain the longevity of some of these weapon systems, understanding that obsolescence of the parts is a real issue. Some of these things aren't made anymore, nor do we have the raw materials here to make them. So how do we ensure that these weapon systems still maintain readiness, and where we can source to get new suppliers to help us in that arena? Because now the big private OEMs have moved on to new innovative things where we still have weapon systems we still need to maintain. And so really looking for innovation to support DLA's mission from an industrial-based perspective. And then again, supply chain resiliency. Folks, I can't underscore this enough. This is something that we all need to take seriously in terms of cybersecurity and our cyber posture from your corporate setting standpoint, ensuring that you have the right measures and metrics in place to ensure that your organization is secure from a cyber security standpoint as you begin to try to be a contractor, not only with DLA, but also the Department of Defense. And so that's really what we're looking at, is really just to kind of survey the small business industrial base readiness to really maximize and enable DLA supplier diversity. Next slide. And so if you aren't aware, folks, for those that are new entrants or looking to do business with the government, and I know it's a lot to handle right out the gate, but I want you to be aware that out of my office, we provide management and oversight for the Procurement Technical Assistance Program, which is a program that establishes procurement technical assistance centers, which is a network, a nationwide network of community-based business centers where you can go and get free and or nominal fee-based training to help you become procurement ready to do business with the federal government. And so they can help you get registered in a business in sam.gov, help you identify prime and subcontracting opportunities, and just a slew of other things. And so if you aren't aware and you need that kind of level of assistance, visit the link at the bottom of this slide and you'll be able to locate your local procurement technical assistance center in your backyard, and do reach out to them and sign up and get a counseling session. Next slide, Earl. I think that's my last slide. Yes. So now I'll turn it over to Earl to facilitate question and answers, and I look forward to engaging folks here within the next 15 to 20 minutes.
Hey, thanks, Dwight. That was very informative, and we've got a line of questions here for you. So you've generated some thought and some query here. The first question that came into us had to do with you referring to CMMC. And I'll read directly here. As a contractor who supplies only products, we are having trouble finding information about the CMMC and how it applies to us, and whether we are required to be certified. How could we get more about the CMC and how it applies to them, and whether they're required to be certified? How can we get more information so we can maintain our readiness to respond to procurement requirements?
Absolutely. So to address that, I'll say that it is still being formed and normed around the true certification requirements. But I can tell you there's a lot of high-level information out there that the Department of Defense has put out. For companies that aren't aware, you can go to businessdefense.gov, and on that website, which is the landing page for the Department of Defense Industrial Policy and also the Department of Defense Office of Small Business Programs, you can find information on CMMC there, and it'll take you through lists and check links where you can kind of get some good intel on that as we roll out and storm and norm and form the requirements for true certification moving forward. Okay, great.
The follow-on to that, Dwight, was had to do with the assessor program and the third-party assessment. Based on on your answer there and from previous webinars we've had, we understand that third-party assessment system really hasn't really been determined as well. Is that your understanding?
That is correct. Miss Katie Arrington, who is our CISO for DoD acquisitions, she is working tirelessly to shore that up. And I do believe we do have a plan in place for that assessment there, and they're working with the third parties to kind of define the requirements moving forward. It's not ready today, but here in the real near future, we will be rolling that out.
Great, thanks, Dwight. And oh, by the way, on the tag end of that, Carol Hart says, thanks for all you do for small business. So give away a name of who probably was asking those questions. Hey, I would also, to the audience, throw out just a recommendation. About 3 or 4 webinars ago, we had a full webinar on CMMC and its process and where it's at right now. If you missed that opportunity, I would reference back to that. It's well worth your time to spend an hour listening to that webinar to figure out where things are and also get some points of contact for follow-on information. Because it's our understanding that particularly with DoD, if you're doing contract business with DoD, you are going to have to be certified through CMMC at some level, depending on how much work and a long list of criteria. And that webinar went into great detail about each one of the levels, the certifications, what some of the requirements will be. So if you're unclear, I would really steer you towards that webinar. Dwight, the next question, I've seen a good cross section of data on small business in general, but very little specific breakout of veteran and disabled veteran-owned business activity. Is it possible to understand how much of the contracting activity is going to those 2 segments?
Sure. So we only track our service-disabled veteran-owned small business goals. We do not have a separate goal for just veteran-owned small business. And so for our service-disabled veteran-owned goal, we're tracking right now year-to-date 2.38%, as I saw the data this morning, with a benchmark against a 3% goal. And so if you look at, we've obligated about $12 billion year-to-date, so you're looking roughly about a little over less than a billion there year-to-date going towards that. And I'll tell you, year over year, we typically do meet our service-disabled veteran-owned small business goals. This year might be a little tight, but we do a robust job throughout our supply chains and supporting service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses and the requirements.
Great, thanks. Another question here. Are there any plans to increase the contracting staff? Currently, the time to get a new DLA HEP contract has been 6 months plus. If you're looking to increase business, this could create a bottleneck.
So I can't say that we're going to increase staff per se, not my line of business. But what I will tell you is there is turnover from an acquisition workforce standpoint, and that's something that's across the board for all federal agencies. Contracting officers are in high demand. And there aren't few. There are a few of us that really know how to do this niche trade skill on behalf of the government. And so once you learn it, you become a hot commodity, and folks want you. And so it's just a good problem we have within our workforce. But one of the things I know that Mr. Matt Beebe, who's the Senior Procurement Executive for DLA, is looking to address through workforce management and retention.
Thank you, Dwight. I'm sorry, I'm looking down for your question.
No problem.
Could you repeat Rosetta's full name and email address? I tell you what, we will. I should have alluded to this. We will get the presentation out to everyone with that, particularly because they have all the names and addresses for each of the areas that you were briefing. So we will make sure that you get all the points of contact and their email address following this presentation. Dwight, we all talk about barriers, And we know there are barriers for small business owners, veteran-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned small business. Could you talk through your observations of what's, one of those top 2 or 3 barriers are, and some strategies for overcoming those barriers?
Sure. So, I think one of the key barriers right now, just from a marketplace standpoint, is just the way the government is going in terms of buying more strategically, especially in the either commodities arena or service support arena. And so, one of the things that any vendor wants to be aware of is how are agencies buying what you offer? If you are a service support contractor, and not to pick on the IT sector, but in the IT business, it's going to be hard for you to really break into any new agency if you aren't strategically aligned through some of the ways in which these agencies buy the services or products that you offer. I think it's a good thing for government to be efficient. Efficient with our spend is good. It's good for the taxpayer. But at the same token, we have to be cognizant of how do we still maintain entry points for small businesses throughout that. And I think one of the things we have to promote more and hold more rigor to is subcontracting. Subcontracting is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. And if you really think about it, the government only has a 23% goal of obligations year over year to award to small businesses, which means the preponderance and majority of the money is really in subcontracting for small business. And really what we're trying to do, especially an initiative out of my office in that refinement area, is really look at our subcontracting program and put some more rigor into it so that we shore it up to ensure that small businesses have that entryway through our requirements, even though they might not be able to prime it. There's still maximum opportunity to win small business dollars at the subcontracting level.
Great, thanks. Last week, and we talked about this before we started on the webinar, that Jimmy Smith from the Navy was with us, and he mentioned one of his challenges was being able to do adequate market research. And you talked about market research and data management to identify capable service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. How do you go about that research? And are you having problems finding capable businesses?
So I would say for us, and really it's really an initiative out of DLA right now to harness the data and make informed decisions off the data. So one of the things we're really in tune with is really understanding who our suppliers are and where they're located at. We look at the NAICS codes, and folks, I want to foot stomp. This is why it's so important for you to keep your SAM profile up to date, because we're looking at NAICS codes, where those businesses are, how much money we're spending in these NAICS codes to ensure that we have a robust industrial base supporting. DLA is really a niche agency, right? Not a lot of service support buy. We maybe close to $1 billion every year in service support buy, which leaves 40+ billion left for commodities and consumables. And so we have ownership to really ensure that we know where our suppliers are, so that we can maintain a robust industrial base to support the warfighter and the whole of government. So we're looking at that data, we're understanding it, and looking at the trends behind it. Yes, mergers and acquisitions are huge, and that's that's a good thing for any sector. But at the same token, when one company buys out another one, that means I just lost a supplier. And so we have to keep in tune to that and understand it, and also understand where our new suppliers coming from, and create that opportunity and window of space for them to be engaged at the right entry level points, whether it be at the subcontracting level or potentially prime dollar level, and ensure that they are competitive enough to compete and win DLA contracts.
Great. How can we, NVSBC, and our members help you with that market research, Dwight?
So I think for one thing, and I alluded to this, is that strategic outreach focus area, right? And so this is stuff that we're doing now. I would hope this is not the last time that DLA is invited to interact with the organization and speak to its members. You know, we have a long history of supporting the organization. I think this is one of the ways that we continue the dialogue to ensure that those that want to do business with DLA have the right interaction points and strategic focus points to interact with DLA. And then at the tactical level, you know, a lot of the way we do our business from an acquisition standpoint out of DLA is through our automated bid board system. And so for those folks out there who aren't aware, we have an internal bid board system similar to betasam.gov called Dibs. And the majority of our actions from the simplified acquisition standpoint flow through Dibs. And so if you are looking to do business with DLA and you haven't registered in Dibs, I encourage you to go to Dibs and register because that will be the way you find the majority of our simplified acquisition consumable requirements.
Great. Thanks, Dwight. I've got one more, unless we get some more over the transom while we're discussing.
We get a lot of questions coming in.
Okay. DLA small business achievements are impressive, but it seems from your numbers today that medical lags all the other areas in small business awards. Is that a true perception, and if so, why?
So I wouldn't necessarily say medical lags. What I will say is what we are is we feel a need. And so when there is a need from any organization, whether it's the Army, Navy, Air Force, or our whole of government partners such as HHS and FEMA, we feel that need. And right now, there's just not been enough need in that particular supply chain. Not to say that, you know, it's not important. It's just there just hasn't been enough need in that arena right now in terms of volume and sales. But you know, we'll look more at that, and you know, I'm keenly aware of the medical supply chain feedback that I've received from a lot of members, and trust and believe DLA supports veteran-owned small businesses and service-able veteran-owned small businesses, and we want to ensure as our partnership grows with the Department of Veteran Affairs and we support their medical supply chain requirements, that we ensure that there's opportunity available in our future requirements for service-able veteran-owned small businesses and veteran-owned small businesses to participate.
Great, thanks. A couple more did come in over the transom, as Earl said. Question on new barriers to small business. In the past, FBO had an interested vendors list, which allowed small business to seek primes. Beta.sam.gov has taken that away. Any insights into solutions for that or thoughts on that?
So I can't speak to, you know, that particular issue. I can tell you, you know, GSA, who really is the business owner for what is now retired FBO and now betasam.gov, is looking at all ways to enhance the system to make it more robust, not only for the federal government internal employees who use it, but also external vendors as well. And so I'm sure that they're exploring solutions in that arena. In terms of bid boards or bidding lists, you know, as a former operational 1102, naturally most contracting officers and specialists have a Rolodex of companies they go to, and that's really about relationship, folks. I'm gonna just be honest. You know, and you know, you got to be able to cultivate the right relationships throughout the acquisition process to ensure that your company is out there and ready to respond, not only from a market research perspective, but also just a soliciting and winning bids perspective as well. And so responding to these RFIs that you see is one of those ways. I'll tell you, I know it's a pain, but you know, we look at these things hardcore and heavy to make a informed business decision on whether the requirement go to a small business set aside or socioeconomic set aside. And so your response in that arena, and the more you can respond, helps us make those informed decisions at the socioeconomic set aside level.
Great. A follow-up on the market research discussion. The questioner says, we get market research emails from the VA daily, but I've never received any type of outbound contact from DLA. Could you explain the process of actually how you conduct the process?
So again, I'll highlight our Dibs. So our internal bid board system. So if you are interested in doing business with DLA, and in particular, really in our core supply chain areas and major subordinate areas, which really are non-service support actions, you want to register in Dibs. You will get up to date on around when we post a market research notice and or our RFQ posting as well.
Great. And for those who may not know, how would they get access to Dibs? What's the best way for them to
so
register?
if you go to on the last slide there, if you go and visit the DLA small business webpage, there is a hyperlink there on there that will take you to the Dibs website, and it will walk you through how to get registered right there on that page.
Great. Wonderful. Well, Earl, I am not seeing any more questions. Could you just give me a confirmation that we've answered everyone's questions?
We have answered everyone's questions. Yes.
Wonderful. Great. Well, hey, Dwight, you've generated quite a discussion today, and we very much appreciate that. And thanks for taking the time with us. Again, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you again for all that you do for small business and for veteran-owned small businesses, and being such a good partner with MVSBC and in support of our members. We look forward to that very soon, next time that we get to interact again. And
Absolutely.
hope you have a great rest of the afternoon. Thanks to everyone who joined us today. Again, we will get those slides out to you all so that you can get access to the link that will connect you not only to Dibs, but will also connect you with all of those email contacts in the specific areas that Dwight briefed us today. And with that, we will thank you all and wish you all a great afternoon or rest of your morning, depending on where you are. And we hope that we'll see all of you next week on our next webinar. Thanks and have a great day.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.